AITA for hiring security to keep my entitled girlfriend out of my beach house. My name is Derek Sullivan. I am 45 years old. I am a dentist in San Diego with a modest clinic in the North Park neighborhood that smells of eucalyptus and dental resin. I am not wealthy, but I do all right. Enough to support my 2 children, pay the mortgage on our house in the Claremont neighborhood, and own a small beach house up the coast near Santa Barbara that I bought 5 years ago when Laura was still with us. Laura was my wife. She passed away suddenly from a brain aneurysm on a Tuesday in June. She was chopping vegetables in the kitchen, complained of a headache as if it were nothing serious. 20 minutes later, she was on the floor. There was no goodbye. There was no time for anything. Paramedics arrived quickly, but the damage was already complete. I was left with Lila, who was 4 at the time, and with Connor, who was 11. Connor was skinny, serious, with a sharp intelligence that sometimes surprised his teachers. He liked taking things apart and understanding how they worked. After what happened to his mom, he stopped taking things apart for a whole year. He just read in silence. One day I found him sitting in the backyard with a screwdriver in his hand, turning a screw that did not belong to anything, and I knew he was starting to heal. Lila was different, quiet, observant, with a way of looking at people that made you feel you were being read. She did not throw tantrums. She did not ask for things. She adapted. Adults described her as very mature for her age, which is the polite way of saying that a girl learned to need less so as not to be a problem. The beach house near Santa Barbara was our refuge. It was not big, 3 bedrooms, a kitchen with a tiled countertop, a deck with hammocks, and a sandy trail that wound down through the coastal scrub to the beach. Lila always slept in the back bedroom, the one that had a round window she called the eye of the ocean. Connor stayed in the one with the bunk beds because he liked sleeping on the top one and feeling like some kind of lookout. I took the one next to it, the one facing the garden, and at night I listened to the waves mixed with the chirping of crickets. That place meant everything to us. It was the only place where the 3 of us could exist without having to explain anything to anyone. I met Terra Mitchell at a colleague's birthday dinner at a restaurant on the main boulevard in Old Town. She was pretty, talkative, with an easy laugh. She worked as an event coordinator at a hotel downtown. She had 2 children, Jackson, who was 8, and Aubrey, who was 6. She was divorced. She told me her story with a mix of vulnerability and grace that disarmed me. I had been alone for almost 5 years. I was not looking for a girlfriend. But loneliness has a way of making you believe that any warmth is the right one. The first few weeks were light. Meals at the food truck park, ice cream on the boardwalk, a stroll through the park. Terra was fun. She laughed with her whole body. And when she looked at me, I felt someone saw me as a person and not just as a father, a dentist, a widower. That was intoxicating. Problems did not arrive with an explosion. They arrived like seeping water. First it was a coffee she forgot to pay for. Then an errand for her kids that I could cover since I was already out. Then Jackson's swim lessons registration because her ex had not paid the child support he owed. The utility bill for her apartment in the central part of town because it slipped her mind this month. A dress for Aubrey because the girl had a presentation at school and Terra was short on cash. Everything came wrapped in urgency, in temporality. Just this once. I swear I will pay you back next week. Next week never came. One day, sitting in the clinic after a complicated extraction, I pulled out the calculator on my phone and started adding. Dinners, errands, utilities for her house, school supplies for her kids, fixing the water heater, Jackson's ear doctor consultation, tickets for the big festival in Balboa Park she wanted us all to see together. In 4 months, I had spent over $9,000 on things that were not mine. It was not that I could not afford it. It was that I had never decided to. That is the difference you lose when someone gets you used to giving. You stop noticing that you are no longer choosing. You are responding to an expectation someone else installed. And then there was Diane, Terra's mother, a tall, thin lady with hair dyed ash blonde that gave her a certain dated style. She lived in a nearby suburb. She came to San Diego every week, sometimes more, and each visit included some urgent need that ended up in my wallet. Filling up her tank, a basket of groceries at Walmart, a loan she promised to return when her Social Security check came in. Diane treated me with a cordiality that never felt authentic. She called me son-in-law with a smile that did not reach her eyes. And when she talked about my children, she referred to them as Derek's kids, never by their names, as if naming them was granting them too much space. Terra's sister, Courtney, was another case. She was 31, did not have a steady job, and showed up whenever she needed something. Sometimes directly, sometimes through Terra. Hey, Courtney needs you to help with her dental work. Do not you know someone? The "do not you know someone" was code that meant pay for it yourself. But what really ate at me was not the money. It was what they were doing to Lila. It was not violence. It was not a direct insult. It was something worse, an exclusion so soft it could be denied at any moment. When we all went out to eat, Aubrey always received Terra's attention first. "What do you want, my queen?" Jackson could interrupt any conversation and nobody corrected him. "He is just very restless," Terra would say, as if restlessness were a virtue and not a lack of boundaries. Lila waited. When they asked her what she wanted to order, usually everyone had already ordered, and she said the same thing so as not to prolong the wait. One Saturday, we went to the craft fair in Old Town. Terra bought a necklace for Aubrey and a spinning top for Jackson. When Lila stopped in front of a stand of hand-painted wooden creatures, Terra put her hand on her shoulder and said, "Oh, but the paint falls off those things in no time." Lila looked away from the creature and said, "Yeah, it does not matter." Something broke inside me, but I did not say anything. I convinced myself it was an isolated moment, that Terra did not do it on purpose, that blending families was hard. I told myself stories so I would not have to act. The first real breaking point was in December during a Christmas party we organized at my house. Terra brought her kids, Diane and Courtney. My mother, Eleanor, came from her place across town. Lila had prepared something for everyone. Keychains made with colorful beads she had strung herself, one for each person. She had worked for over a week. She put a tag with everyone's name on them, written in gold marker. She handed out the keychains with that shyness of hers that is half embarrassment, half hope. Connor received his and hooked it on his backpack immediately. My mother pressed it to her chest and said, "It is beautiful, my heaven." Terra said, "Oh, how cute." Without looking up from her phone, Aubrey looked at it and asked if it had a bell. Jackson spun it for 2 seconds and left it on the table. Then it was Diane's turn. Lila approached and held out the keychain with both hands like someone offering something important. Diane took it between her fingers, looked at it for a moment, and let out a nasal chuckle. "Oh, how curious. But those bead things break really easily, right? Besides, I already have my lifelong keychain." And she left it on the edge of the table next to a used napkin. Lila did not cry. She did not complain. She just lowered her arms and walked to the kitchen with a calm that was not calm. It was surrender. Connor looked at me from the other side of the living room. He was 16 and had eyes that judged with the precision of a scalpel. "Seriously, are you not going to say anything?" he asked me quietly. I should have stopped everything right there. I should have said something firm, clear, definitive. Instead, I picked up the keychain from the table, put it in my pocket, and changed the subject. I told myself Diane was just like that it was not worth causing a scene in the middle of a Christmas party. That night, while I was washing the dishes, I found the 6 remaining keychains Lila had not handed out. She kept them in a little cloth bag inside a kitchen drawer. They were not for anyone else. They were duplicates she had made in case any broke. My 9-year-old daughter was making emotional backups of her own gifts because she already expected them not to be enough. That should have broken me, and something did break, but not enough. Not yet. The second breaking point came in February. Lila participated in a drawing contest organized by the Community Arts Center. She drew a big oak tree full of birds with a purple sky and roots that turned into rivers underground. She received an honorable mention. The award ceremony was on a Thursday afternoon in the courtyard of the Arts Center. Something simple, diplomas, a set of colored pencils, and a round of applause. I rescheduled 2 appointments at the clinic to be there. Connor went too. Terra said she would catch up with us with her kids. She arrived 20 minutes late with a Starbucks Frappuccino in her hand and the kids pulling her arm because they had seen cotton candy on the corner. Lila's drawing was hanging on the side wall of the courtyard. The art teacher came over to congratulate her, and Lila turned red up to her ears, but she smiled. It was a real smile, the kind I almost never saw. Terra looked at the drawing for 3 seconds. "Oh, how cool," she said. Then Aubrey asked to take pictures in front of a mural in the back, and Terra spent 10 minutes doing a photo shoot for her, while Lila waited standing next to her own drawing with the diploma under her arm. When they handed out the coloring kits, The coordinator gave one to Lila. Terra intercepted it before Lila finished opening it. "Oh, Aubrey is going to love those colored pencils. She actually draws every day," she said and passed it to her daughter. Aubrey started opening the box. Lila was left empty-handed. I felt the blood rush up my neck. "That kit belongs to Lila," I said. Terra looked at me in annoyance. "Oh, Derek, they are just pencils. Aubrey will get more use out of them. They belong to Lila." Aubrey, to her credit, stayed still. Jackson looked away. Terra snorted, snatched the box from Aubrey, and tossed it to Lila with a "here, take it" gesture. Lila caught the box with both hands. She did not say thank you. She did not say anything. She just hugged it to her chest, as if someone might take it away again. In the car on the way back, Terra's kids were in the back seat of her SUV. Lila and Connor rode with me. After a while of silence, Lila said from the back in a very low voice, "Dad, why does she always want to give my things to Aubrey?" I gripped the steering wheel, looked in the rearview mirror. Lila was not crying. She had that expression that was worse than crying, premature resignation. "Because she has not understood that your things are yours," I told her, "and I have not done enough to make her understand." Connor, on the passenger side, did not turn around, but said in an almost inaudible voice, "Well, enough is enough, right?" That night I talked to Terra. I calmly told her that her family had been treating Lila as if she were expendable and that she herself participated in it every time. She minimized what happened. Terra crossed her arms with the same old excuse. "Lila is very sensitive. My kids are simply more open. She closes herself off, and you turn her into a victim. She closes herself off because she learned that if she asks, she gets ignored. Then teach her to ask. I am not going to teach my daughter to compete for decent treatment." Terra stayed quiet for a moment. Then, with a trembling voice, she told me I was still stuck in my grief, that I did not know what it meant to blend families, that I was making her feel judged. And then, before leaving, she asked me if I could transfer the money for Jackson's summer camp because she had already registered him and the second installment was due. That was Terra entirely in a single scene. The message arrived on a Tuesday night. I had just closed the clinic. It still smelled of latex gloves and cloves, that smell that stays with you after a long day of appointments. I opened my phone and read, "We are going to spend spring break at your beach house near Santa Barbara. Me, the kids, my mom, and Courtney. Leave everything stocked by Thursday. Buy lactose-free milk since my mom does not drink anything else. No question, no do you mind, no minimal courtesy." It was an instruction, as if I were the maintenance manager of an Airbnb she had booked for free. I answered with a single word. "No." The 3 little dots appeared immediately, then 3 laughing emojis. Then, "Do not be a clown. We are going anyway. What are you going to do?" I did not answer. What I felt was not anger. It was something cleaner. Certainty. The same certainty you feel when a patient tells you they have had relentless pain for weeks, and you already know the diagnosis before taking the X-ray. It is not intuition. It is an accumulation of evidence finally finding a name. I did not sleep well that night, not out of nerves, but because I was thinking about everything I should have done before and did not do. At 5 in the morning I got up, made coffee in the pot that belonged to Laura, and sat in the dark kitchen. The microwave clock read 5:17 with that pale green light. I thought about Lila preparing to disappear in her own room if Terra and her family arrived. I thought about the little bag with the backup keychains. I thought about the box of colored pencils they almost took from her in front of everyone. At 6 I started moving. I called the locksmith who had installed the lock at my clinic, a man named Bob Alvarez. I asked him to change the padlock on the gate of the Santa Barbara house that very day. He said yes, he would be there at 10. Then I called an acquaintance who owns a private security company on the coast. I asked him for a guard for Thursday afternoon. Nothing confrontational, just presence. "Are you expecting trouble?" he asked me. "I am expecting insistence," I told him, which is the polite version of the same thing. I drove to the beach house before dawn, about 3.5 hours along the coastal highway. The road was still damp from the morning mist. When I arrived, the house smelled of salt air and warm wood. I opened the windows, checked the rooms, swept the deck, and trimmed some bougainvillea branches that had crossed over the sandy trail. Bob Alvarez arrived on time, changed the padlock in 40 minutes, gave me 3 copies of the new key, and left with his shoulder bag, whistling a tune. The guard arrived after noon. His name was Mike Torres, 40-something, thick arms, a man of few words. He had been with a local security firm before. I showed him photos of Terra, Diane, and Courtney. "Are they coming looking for a fight?" he asked. "They are coming expecting me to step aside," I told him. He nodded slowly. "Those are the ones who get the angriest when it does not work." At 3 in the afternoon on Thursday, my phone started ringing. Messages from Terra, one after another. "We are leaving now. Did you buy the towels I told you about? My mom wants the downstairs bedroom. Courtney is bringing her air mattress. Just move over." I did not answer any of them. At 6:30, a dusty SUV and an older sedan pulled up in front of the gate. From the deck, I watched them get out. Terra first with sunglasses on her head. Diane from the passenger side fanning herself with a magazine. Courtney from the sedan dragging a cooler. Jackson and Aubrey ran toward the gate. They had packed as if to stay for a month. Suitcases, Walmart shopping bags, a pool inflatable, plastic chairs, a portable speaker. Terra saw me on the deck and smiled with the confidence of someone who has never heard a definitive no. "Derek, open up." I stayed where I was. "No." The smile froze for a second. Then she laughed. "Stop playing around. Open the gate." "No." Diane peeked out from behind Terra. "Oh, come on. Do not be rude. We came all the way from San Diego. I told you not to come." Courtney dropped the cooler in the dirt. "And what is with this guy? Is he going to leave us standing here? You can go back the way you came. The road is clear." Terra walked up to the gate and grabbed the bars. Mike took a step forward without saying anything, his hands crossed in front of him. Terra saw him and stopped. "You hired a guard for us?" "For anyone who thinks my house is theirs after I said no." Diane let out a dry laugh. "Look at that. He seemed so quiet." I did not answer. I looked at the three of them with the same calm I use when a patient tells me it does not hurt, and I know it does. Terra changed tactics. She lowered her voice, softened her expression. "Derek, we had a disagreement, but the kids are already here. Do not punish them. You brought them after I told you no. That decision is yours, not mine. You cannot leave us on the street. The road back has gas stations, diners, and even a convenience store. You are not stranded." Courtney took out her cell phone. "I am going to record you so everyone can see what kind of guy you are. Record whatever you want. You are on private property after an explicit refusal." Mike spoke for the first time. Deep voice, no inflection. "Ladies, I need you to clear the entrance." Diane straightened up as if she had been insulted. "And who is this guy to tell us to leave?" "The man who is politely asking you to leave before this stops being polite," said Mike without moving a muscle in his face. Terra stared at me. Her eyes were shining, but not with sadness, with calculation. She was looking for the angle, the phrase that would make me cave. I knew her well. I had seen that look every time she needed money. "You are doing this for the girl, right? Because your daughter is too shy and you do not want to accept it." The air stopped. There are phrases that cross a line from which there is no return. That was one. I answered with a voice I did not recognize as my own, flat, definitive. "My daughter is not too shy. My daughter learned to stay quiet because every time she spoke you ignored her, and I allowed it. That is over." Diane approached the gate. "It is just that you are raising that girl like a greenhouse flower. She needs the world. She needs to be treated like everyone else. She is treated worse than everyone else. That is the difference you refuse to see." Courtney scoffed. "How dramatic." "Dramatic is coming with 7 suitcases to someone else's house after being told no and getting mad when you find the door locked." Terra took a step back. She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. I had seen those tears before. They appeared quickly, were well controlled, and always coincided with the moment she was losing something. "Access, money, or control? What do I tell my kids?" she asked. "The truth. That you came without permission, and the answer was no. You are being so unfair. I am a father who stopped pretending everything was fine." Jackson was looking at me from the car window with a frown. Aubrey had a juice box in her hand and looked more bored than sad. Neither of them was devastated. Kids are more resilient than adults think, especially when adults stop using them as an argument. Terra stood there for another minute, breathing heavily. Then she turned around, got in the car, and slammed the door. Diane got in with the wounded dignity of someone who never thought a gate could be closed in front of her. Courtney tossed the cooler into the sedan and drove off, kicking up dust. Mike and I stood in silence until the cars disappeared around the curve. Are they always like that? He asked. Not always. Sometimes they also ask for money. He gave a single, short laugh and kept looking at the empty road. I went inside the house. I sat in the kitchen at the tiled counter Laura had chosen on a trip to the coast. I placed my hands on the cold surface and stayed there for a long time, without thinking about anything specific. What I felt was not triumph. It was more like the silence left after an earthquake, relief, disorder, the certainty that something had shifted and nothing would ever be in the same place again. My phone would not stop. Messages from Terra, from Courtney. A voice note from Diane that lasted 4 minutes and that I did not listen to. Then a call from my mother. I answered that one. "Son," said Eleanor with her usual voice, neither alarmed nor calm, just attentive. Terra called me. She says there was a problem at the beach house. There was not a problem. There was a boundary. Silence. It has to do with the Christmas party thing. With the Christmas party thing, with the drawing contest thing, with the over $9,000, with everything. Another longer silence. I should have said something sooner, my mother said. Me too. The next day, I sent Terra a message. It is over. Do not contact my kids. If you left anything at my house, send me a list, and I will coordinate it. She replied in seconds. Are you breaking up with me over a vacation? And right there I knew she had not understood anything, and was not going to understand. People like Terra always reduce everything to the last event, the last message, the last argument, the closed gate. Never the entire chain of small abuses that made that closure inevitable. Terra showed up at the clinic 2 days later. My assistant, Elena, came to tell me with a serious face, "There is a lady who wants to see you and does not have an appointment." "Do not let her in," I said. From my office, I heard Terra's voice in the reception area, modulated, hurt, that dramatic tone she used when she needed an audience. "Just 5 minutes, he owes me that." Elena, a woman with nerves of steel and zero patience for drama, told her in a firm voice, "Ma'am, nobody goes in without an appointment." I went out into the hallway. Terra saw me and changed her posture instantly. Drooping shoulders, watery eyes, broken voice. "Derek, can we talk like civilized people?" "No. You will not even listen to me." "No." Her eyes changed. The mask dropped in a second. "Your daughter is too shy and does not know how to fit in, and your son does not like me. That is why nobody wants to be with you." The waiting room went silent. A woman holding her son looked at me with wide eyes. There are phrases that do not deserve an answer. They deserve a consequence. "Get out of my clinic right now." Elena took a step forward. Terra assessed the room. She understood she had lost everyone present and walked out without looking back. I closed my office door. My hands were shaking. Not from doubt, from the quiet realization of something I had refused to see for months. The following weeks were noisy, and then they were silent. Terra texted me from another number. I blocked her. Courtney sent me a message saying her niece had been upset because of me and casually asked if I still had the cast iron skillet Diane had left at my house. That combination of reproach and logistics was so absurd, it almost made me laugh. Diane sent me an email with one paragraph about forgiveness and another about how men today do not know how to take care of a family. I replied with one line. "Do not contact me again." Some acquaintances called me feigning concern. "Hey, Terra is doing really badly. What happened?" The answer was always the same. It was not a misunderstanding. It was a boundary. That phrase worked like a padlock. Most did not know what to say after that. My sister Natalie came over on a Friday with some homemade savory corn cakes and a bottle of wine from the valley. She sat in the kitchen, poured 2 glasses, and said, "So, finally. It took you long enough, brother." "I know." We ate in silence for a while. Then she asked me, "What was it that made you react?" I thought about the backup keychains, about the snatch box of colored pencils, about Lila saying, "It does not matter," with the same voice an adult uses to say, "I give up." My daughter was learning to disappear, I told her. And I was teaching her that it was acceptable. Natalie nodded. She did not say anything else. It was not necessary. What changed in the house was not spectacular. It was the absence of something. Nobody measuring their words. Nobody waiting to see what someone else's need would eclipse their own. Nobody pretending forced generosity was love. Lila started talking more at dinner. Not a lot, just more. She told things about school without me having to ask 3 times. On a Tuesday, she asked me if we could go to the beach house for the weekend. Just us. Connor said he would cook. The following Saturday, we drove the 3.5 hours. Lila fell asleep in the back seat with her sketchbook on her lap. Connor rode shotgun, changing songs every 30 seconds until I told him if he changed it again, I would take the cable away. When we arrived, the house smelled of salt air and damp wood. Lila went straight to her room, opened the round window, and looked out at the ocean. "It is still there," she said, as if she had feared the ocean had gone away. "It is still there," I answered her. Connor carried the bags, put the speaker on the deck, and said, "We should have come a while ago." He was not wrong. That night we had grilled cheese sandwiches and noodle soup at the wooden table. Nobody fought over rooms. Nobody allocated leftover attention to my daughter. Nobody talked over her, or renamed her disappointment as sensitivity. Afterwards, we sat on the deck. The sky was full of stars the way it only gets on the California coast, far from city lights. You could hear the sea and the crickets and nothing else. Lila leaned on my arm. After a while, she said, "I thought you were going to let them in." There was no reproach in her voice. That was the hardest part. She was not accusing me. She was just describing what she expected from me, based on what I had shown her for months. "I know," I told her. "But you did not let them." "No." She stayed quiet. Then she pulled a loose thread on the hammock and said, "They are not coming back anymore." "No, not anymore." She nodded once. Something loosened in her shoulders, something she had been carrying for months. Connor, from the other hammock, pretended not to be listening, but I saw him take off his headphones. A week later, an envelope appeared under the door of my house. Inside was a photo of a beach day. Me, Terra, the 4 children on the sand. Everyone smiling with that smile people put on when they still do not know what is coming. On the back, in Terra's handwriting, "You threw everything away out of pride." I stared at the photo for a while, not because I did not feel anything. Some moments had been real. Some affection was genuine, but the note confirmed what I already knew. Terra still believed it was a matter of pride. Not the way Lila had been treated, not the money, not the invasion, not the fact that my no seemed like a joke to her, just my pride. I took the photo out of the envelope, put it in a box with things I was not ready to throw away or keep. I tore up the note, recycled the envelope. It was not dramatic. It was just closure. A month later, I took the kids to the big festival in Balboa Park. Lila wore an embroidered dress my mother had given her. Connor complained about the heat, but ate 3 large plates. During one point in the dance, Lila turned to me and said, "The next drawing is going to be of this." I did not say anything. I just watched her draw in the air with her finger, tracing the colors of the skirts spinning in front of us. That night at the house, Lila brought me a folded paper to the breakfast table. I opened it. It was a map of the beach house drawn in pencil. Each room had a name. Lila in the eye of the ocean room, Connor in the bunk bedroom, Dad in the garden room. The guest room was empty. Below, in her round, careful handwriting, she had written, "Empty is also fine." I had to look away for a moment. My 9-year-old daughter had understood something that took me 45 years. Sometimes what you do not let in is what saves you. There was no cinematic revenge. There was no triumphant speech. There was no moment where Terra fell to her knees begging for forgiveness while the music swelled. What there was this. 3 people breathing easier in a house that belonged to them. A girl who stopped saying, "It does not matter." A teenager who started cooking on Saturdays. A man who learned that limitless generosity is not generosity. It is extraction with good manners, and a gate with a new padlock that I closed myself. Because sometimes the most loving act a father can do is not opening the door, but making sure the wrong people never cross it again. The beach house near Santa Barbara is still there. The round window is still there. The sandy trail is still there. And my kids keep choosing their rooms every time we go, as if it were the first time, with that intact joy of someone who knows that place is theirs. Sometimes the guest room stays empty. And empty, I learned, is not loneliness. Sometimes empty means, what was hurting us does not fit here anymore. Comment. I really wanted to share what stayed with me after reflecting on this story. Setting boundaries is one of the most loving things we can do for ourselves and our families. It's not about shutting people out, but about protecting the peace we've worked so hard to build. Taking responsibility for how we treat our loved ones helps everyone heal and grow. Real kindness comes from a place of strength, not endless giving that leaves us empty. Sometimes, Choosing calm means making tough calls that honor our self-respect. I hope this encourages you to look at the relationships in your life and ask what truly serves your well-being. You deserve connections that lift you up and make you feel seen. Let's keep learning to value our own worth and create spaces filled with genuine care. What about you? Have you ever had to set a boundary that brought you more peace? If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.